Well, thanks for jumping on here, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a little while since you guys have been up here. What's the first year that you were up here, Travis?
2010.
2010 for Hammer In.
Yep.
And that's the year you debuted your grinder?
Yep, essentially had it all planned with Tim and sent one to Blade Show, piggybacked on Knife and Gun Finishing's table, and sent the other one to you.
That was Tim Hancock.
Tim Hancock, correct.
Yep. For people that don't know, he was a legendary knife maker that was a mentor to lots of people in the knife industry, but probably mostly so yourself. And
definitely so myself. Took my first lesson from Tim on my 13th birthday.
Really?
Yeah, walking around Knife Show, already had knives that made and broke, and went to Arizona Knife Collectors Association meeting, and Dad wandered around. Tim stuck out, you know, from his kind of cowboy lifestyle to his knives to mannerisms to he's a lefty, I'm a lefty, and it worked out that my first lesson was the day after his 40th birthday on my 13th birthday.
Really? That's cool.
And that was a trip when I turned 40. Like, wow.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, no, Tim was fantastic. Unfortunately, got Parkinson's and took its toll fast on Tim, but he was a legend. Thank you, Courtney. Our coffee chick that's going to run our coffee shop in our new building is working in here, and she this is the perks, I guess. She's making coffee for people. So I think she's anxiously waiting for that new building to get done so she can actually make coffee for the general public and not just us. But Eric, what was the first year you came up here?
I believe it's 2012.
12?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and those were for Hammer In. So for people that don't know what a Hammer In is, it's basically a conference. You know, all people in all sorts of professions go to conferences, but our conferences are cooler than your conferences as knife makers. We forge steel. I would pay knife makers to come in. Frankly, it was selfish of myself because it was like all these guys that I wanted to learn from and wanted to hang out with and meet. So I paid them to come in and teach classes, and then people would pay to come up to learn from them. And it was a cool experience because we would have knife makers come into the shop and teach forging or grinding or, you know, wire inlay, engraving, carving. It was a cool time. And then there were also some shenanigans that would usually happen. At one point, I think Steve Garson set up a tattoo parlor in my shop. Were you here for that one?
You know, I might just not have been paying attention. Like, I remember when Talanian brought that cut and shoot and shot the cut and shoot.
Yep.
And
which is a knife basically with a gun attached to the side of it.
Yeah, but cool. a very
was that Wade Coulter's?
No, it was
or was it Bruce Bump?
Bruce. It was either Bruce Bump or there was another gentleman that was making cut and shoots at the time, but I don't remember. I just know, like, here's this like $20,000 plus item.
Yeah.
And with a collector with balls enough to shoot it.
Yeah, with like a black powder
to appreciate it.
Pistol attached to the side of a Bowie knife.
Yeah, a cannon blade.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But those hammer-ins were fun because people would actually camp. Well, where my building is sitting, people would set up tents, camp out in this field. They'd camp out in my other fields, and then we'd also shoot the bowling ball cannon and bowling ball mortars and blast anvils, and it was a good time. Those were the good old days. It's back when I had a trailer house sitting here and no barn, and Wade would always complain about my driveway, Wade Coulter, because I had that sandy gravel. I had built my driveways and everything out of my pond gravel, but I couldn't really afford to put like fine grade to finish it.
Right.
So it was that bony kind of loose rock, and Wade Coulter was always bitching at me about my driveway, having to walk around on it. So I think he'd like my new driveway a little bit better, but yeah, those were good times. But Travis invented the TW-90 grinder. What's the 90? Because it tilts 90?
Tilts 90 degrees.
Okay.
At the time, it was the only machine that was purpose-built to be a vertical and horizontal grinder.
Yeah, a lot of people would buy horizontal grinders, especially folder makers and whatnot, and that's a belt that's kind of going east and west, put different attachments and stuff on it, and then, you know, we traditionally as knife makers run a belt that's going north and south vertically. And Travis, you got together kind of with Tim, right? Because
I needed different tools and stuff. When I was going through college, I was finishing up an engineering degree. I was working on my master's actually in ag engineering, and I used a grinder every day, whether it was fabricating building parts for professors and grad students, whether it was making knives or welding. I used a belt grinder everywhere I went, and I never had a horizontal grinder, and I also never had a surface grinder.
Yeah.
And so I showed some knives to Tim, and he's like, you know what? You need to make some bigger work. Where I say, well, I can do that. I can make some bigger work. And you need to get a surface grinder so everything's flat and parallel. And I'm like, I think I just build my own grinder. I can just build in the surface grinder, and then I'll just be set. And so the first...
And how old were you in 2010?
2010, 29, 28, 29.
Okay, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Because I remember Tim calling me being like, God, I got this young kid that keeps coming over to my shop. This kid's freaking genius. He's like, he's building this grinder. Wait till you see it, Josh. Like, wait till you see it. I'm telling you, it's going to change the grind. It's going to change the knife world. Like, this he's on to something.
That sounds right. I remember those conversations because he's like, yeah, you're going to have to go see Josh. He has his hammer in. So send one there and send one there. And I could even overhear some of the deal like, Josh, don't worry about the price. Just buy it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, because, it came complete with more options and features that now you see on everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it bothers me a bit. I'm protective of my friends, but and you're a friend, but you were the one that like broke the industry wide open on what that was. But then, and your grinders aren't cheap. They're built super solid. They're built with really good parts. A lot of handwork that you do on them and stuff.
I don't even think I have a Chinese screw in it.
Yeah, so your grinders aren't a cheap grinder to buy, and then you start seeing all these other companies knocking off your grinder, getting stuff made in China, whatever, and seeing the same-ish grinder for $1,000 less, $1,500 less, and I always tell people, and it's like, we've bought a bunch of your grinders. We could get away with a cheaper grinder in our shop, to be honest, but I'm kind of loyal when it comes to that, so I'm like, no, we're buying Travis's grinders, because I don't think you really get enough credit in the knife industry. A lot of people don't know, if you're a knife maker that got into knife making because of Forged in Fire in the last 10 years, you don't know that the grinder that on X website is really just a copy of the Travis Wuertz model grinder.
Oh yeah, there were some things that there were some machines that if you were to take the TW-90 shadow on the wall and then trace it, you would find those patterns in other machines that had no purpose. They'd be like, oh, there's this tensioner. Why does it look like that? It has no ratchet.
Yeah.
Well, because a lot of companies, if you're not famous, get mistaken for somebody that is.
Yeah.
And of course, I never advertised really.
Yeah.
I quit advertising years and years ago because I've had the same welder for every single TW-90 since 2010. I've welded every single weld on every single TW-90 to date.
Really? Yeah.
Not the smartest thing I bragged about, but
Yeah. Well, that grinder's been amazing, and so it's kind of cool. I have kind of the first, or one of the first 3 grinders that you kind of prototyped originally in 2010, and then the next year you came back with more grinders and
surface grinding attachment.
Yeah, when you were at the Hammer Inn, of course, there was a bunch of knife makers here that were like, okay, I need one of those, and ordered grinders from you. And then the next year you came back, I bought basically the sample grinder that you brought that year here, and then you launched the surface grinding attachment, which that's a thing for knife makers that is an absolute game changer. When I bought my first surface grinder, I was like 17 years old, and it's an old abrasive 3B. I mean, it's a great old grinder. Got it converted to run a belt, and it works awesome. But the level of accuracy and the level of work of my knives just like jumped overnight. Like when you go from hand grinding on like a farm magnet to a surface grinder you can grind within 1/1000th of an inch, like everything changes.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of people, don't have the room or the ability to put a 2,000-pound grinder, 3,000-pound grinder in their garage. Takes up a lot of space. It's also intimidating buying big equipment like that and trying to convert it, and so
just trying to move it sometimes.
Yeah, so that surface grinding attach, again, that a ton of people have now copied. That surface grinding attachment where you can just buy an extra attachment for several $100 and put it on there and grind on your current grinder. It makes the hobbyist knife maker thing, the forged in fire kind of fan guy, truly have the ability to make great knives in his garage on one piece of equipment. Has a horizontal grinder now. He has a vertical grinder. He has a surface grinder. He has all the different wheels from a 1/2 inch all the way up to 10, 12 inches. Like
Dialed in work rest specifically for knife making.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and the ability to taper tangs, that surface grinding attachment, which a big surface grinder doesn't do, the ability to do a little bit of math and figure out a taper and grind tapered tangs. I ground a ton of tapered tangs when I was a kid with just a big, 10-inch long handheld magnet, and
it was
rough.
lines, hollow grind the deal, and then flat grind it.
Trying to get your hand material to fit up to it.
And the precision on it is just incredible. I mean, I've replaced a big Boyer Schwartz surface grinder in my shop with that surface grinder attachment that when you're done, you just take it up and hang it on the wall, and it's completely out of the way.
Yeah.
And it's great for a precision for pivots, for also sort of folder parts, as well as going through and doing things like taper tangs and all that, as you mentioned. But it is a precision piece of machinery that is you just can't live without once you've tried it.
And to be able to really quickly be able to change belts and grits, so you can hog away with a 36 grit belt if you're trying to just make ground, and then you can throw a 60 micron belt or something on there, and you come off with a finish that it basically is done. Very little hand sanding. So, Eric, what was your entry or discovery into the knife world? Like, where did you come from? How did that happen?
That's a great question. My son, when he was 13 years old, I got into throwing knives.
Okay.
And he just couldn't afford anything that he would really work well. It would bend and junk and that sort of thing.
Pull that mic up there.
And he came to me and said, Dad, I'd like to make some knives.
Yeah.
So I thought, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Started doing some research, and he said, I really need a 2x72 grinder. Looked at the price tag. I said, you better mow a lot of lawns to get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking at it a little bit, I thought, I could make one of those. So for about $150 in parts, I made the first 2x72, which I still have in my shop.
Yeah.
And will run today.
Yeah.
And that just started all sorts of, we built forges, heat treating equipment, just went on and just gained a real love for making knives and metallurgy. And
well, and you put out a lot of information for knife makers too. You have a website that has some of your early builds of stuff too, right?
Yeah, so I haven't added anything to that website since 2012, so it's a little outdated. But I used to.
But it's still relevant. I mean, it's still.
I still get calls all the time, or mainly emails about information that was either posted on Blade forums back in the day, or I just responded to one
pre-social media.
Yeah, that's right. And for either hydraulic press builds or forge builds, that sort of thing. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So diving into that a little bit, you have some expertise that most knife makers don't. I mean, what was your degree in?
My degree was in computer science.
Okay.
So one of the things that I really enjoyed doing, and after I met Travis and through Travis met Tim Hancock, is I've spent time with him automated his press so that he could work better, utilizing a set of quick change settings, so he wouldn't have to use hard dies and that sort of thing to get very uniform.
Yeah.
So that's been a real passion of mine, is going through and automating presses and
yeah. So that skill set that most knife makers don't have of understanding electronics and programming and that kind of stuff has allowed, you've been very helpful to a ton of knife makers of helping them kind of make their kind of farm setups a little bit more advanced, a lot more advanced, to where even like temperature controls and forges, like for people that don't know this stuff that are listening, like it's tough, especially for a newer knife maker when you start a forge to just look at it and say, what's that temperature in that forge? Mm-hmm. And you find a lot of people either running forges too cool, thinking that it's hotter than it is, and then they're not getting steel to stick together, or they're running way hotter than they need to be, so they're burning tons of gas and burning up their forge, or the atmosphere within the forge. You might be in the correct temperature range, but your atmosphere isn't correct, and what that means to people that are listening is, you've got like too much oxygen in your environment in your forge, and so then you're starting to get oxidization of your layers, and then for some reason it's like, well, why isn't my steel welding together? It's like, well, those layers aren't clean by the time you're pressing or hammering them things together. So you've helped a ton of people. Even myself, like in the heat treating standpoint too, I used to run my heat treat forge, kind of get it up hot, and then, I was doing all kinds of things, turn the gas down for a little while because you start watching your temperature climbing, and then turn it back up, or put a big bar of steel down in your salt to try to cool it down, and get it within the range you want, and then put a blade in to heat treat. And you've been able to help people like myself put temperature controls on these forges to where when it hits 1501 degrees, the gas turns down, and then when it hits 1499, the gas turns just back up a little bit.
That's right. And that's the early iterations just simply controlled the gas, and later iterations controlled gas and air. So as that gas was going down in volume, the air is also going down in volume to keep the atmosphere correct. Mm-hmm. And the big turning point with that was finding the ability to have air delivery that could instantaneously change along when the gas changed, and that really cleaned up the whole environment.
Oh, really? What does that look like? How does that work? Because I think the way mine works, the way I set mine, God, that's been, I don't know how many, 15 years ago. I'm running 2 gas valves, and then one is shutting off and one is kind of staying on, but my air is staying the same.
Right. Yeah. So you're using a gas valve with an idle.
Yeah.
And so it's shutting off your gas valve when you want it to maintain or be a little bit cooler, running gas through your idler valve just to keep it lit.
Yeah, because for people that don't know, if your flame goes out and your forge cools down at all, when the gas comes back on, it says, hey, we're getting cool, we need gas. You turn the gas on. If there's no flame, and you start dumping gas into a hot forge. When it decides to go, now you have a bomb.
That's right.
And things can get real Western.
That's right. So to answer your question, if you do that same concept with air at the same time and manage the air at the same time you're managing the gas, you can keep a uniform atmosphere within your forge.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing, like playing with forges and stuff. I spent a lot of time staring at different ribbon burner forges and temp controls, and in my opinion, it goes in evolution. At first, you're trying to get it hot enough, and then you're trying to see, okay, can I? What's the lowest temperature that I can actually maintain without creating a bomb?
Right.
And then what's the practical temperature of interest for heat treating in a forge? You go, well, I want to be able to hold down to 1450 or maybe 1250. Maybe I want to do a subcritical. Maybe I have my electric heat treating oven. Maybe it's tempering blades. So if I can make my forge accurate enough for the austenitizing part, somewhere between 1450 and 1500, because holding to higher temperatures becomes easy.
Right.
You shut your gas off. It's so hot. Gas comes back on, auto ignites.
Right.
Start getting around 14, 15. It's bomb territory.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to just count on the fact that the gas is just going to ignite right away. Right. It's going to ignite.
It'll wait till your eyelashes are close by.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same controlling concepts are used for salt pots or anything else like that. You can just hook up the controls and set it to what you want, and it'll go off and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. We might have to look at my my setup and see what kind of. I'm trying to kind of, there's a lot of years that I went. Well, when I quit making knives full time originally, and I went and worked as a lineman, I was single and doing the lineman stuff, and pretty much coming home and doing dishes and laundry and whatever. And so I wasn't making a ton of knives, making a little bit. Then started MKC, and it's just been a sprint for the last 5 years doing this, and I don't get much time out there. And so a lot of years have gone by where there's a lot of changes and some technologies and whatnot. And I'm very excited about kind of getting back to work over there and even hosting hammer-ins where some of the people that are following our company or newer knife makers or whatever can kind of come learn again. But I need to kind of upgrade some of my equipment in my shop and keep up with the times a little bit. But that kind of control for people that are listening, like, you don't necessarily need all that stuff. Like that stuff shouldn't be the barrier to entry for someone deciding to be a knife maker. I mean, you can still get away with a rosebud or a acetylene torch and trough of oil, and I mean you can still get things done. But when it starts to getting into adding consistency and frankly, even as a custom knife maker, production and time matters. So the quicker you can get something done and keep accuracy and not have blades warping and cracking and having issues where, okay, you didn't want to buy that extra little control or set that up, but now you just lost 2 weeks of work because you ruined a blade at the very end, And same with the grinders. Like you can get away with some cheap Sears grinder like a lot of people have, but boy, when you start having the ability to put tables on and, keep things square and, even like your, rotary platen attachment and a lot of the finishing stuff, the way that you can finish on these belt grinders now is amazing.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if that rotary platen attachment is actually yours. I think that's that one.
I was involved with it, but I didn't actually produce one.
Okay.
I
think I got that one from True Grit or something.
So you probably got it from Jerry Moen, depending.
That's where I got it. I was
like kind of with that, like Bowman. There was multiple rotary platens where it was just a poly V or a ribbed rubber belt going around ribbed idlers, and it gave a more controlled slack belt. But it didn't have a rigid backing. Jerry Moen's a maker, and he's a guild member, and he's been guild president before, and so he was a customer of mine. He had TW-90, and he added the rotary platen belt to one of my original platens, and gives me a call. Said, "Travis, you got to come see this." And so I come out to Texas and saw his carbide back rotary platen prototype built off of my original TW-90 platens, and I was like, okay, well let me call Randy, who makes the hardcore grinders and makes all my parts, because I'm not established CNC shop. I have to have my wheels and machines stuff done somewhere. So I went to who I thought did the best job for the best price, and they makes my parts anyway. So I go, Randy, you got to come check this out. And so then they kind of took over from it.
Right.
I kind of go, well, you don't need me to draw this up and then have Randy whatever. So I just kind of like stepped out. And then they started building them, and
are people still building and selling those today? Like, is that an old thing? I mean, because I got mine.
Now there's multiple cheaper versions.
Is there?
So, like, I was originally going to make basically 2 laser cut plates that go together with the belt running around it and whatever done, and be relatively inexpensive. Mm-hmm. The first version was actually a beautiful billet, enclosure with probably made out of like 50 pounds of aluminum, machined down to a lot less. And the sucker cost as much as a grinder.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a $3,000 attachment or something.
Right.
And is wonderful and stuff, but there were certain things that didn't. Anyway, I never really produced them.
Yeah.
I kind of just, I made stuff that was, I made them fit, made them work, but like it was out of my personal want to spend that type of money on an attachment.
Right. Well, that is what's cool about your grinders, though, is they are very easy to, if you're a creative guy at home, you can stick whatever attachment you think you can come up with on the end of a bar and stick it into your grinder and try it out.
It's kind of like, basically one of the biggest part of a grinder is a receiver for a component. And can I change my components really easy? And then I add a tool rest receiver to all of the components. Mm-hmm. And just those simple parts being, okay, I can take 2 arms, put it together, adjust it, move it, becomes very handy. And whether it, I have grinder parts making all kinds of stuff in my shop. There's grinder parts everywhere used for different stuff.
Yeah.
And like Legos, but heavier.
Sure. Yeah, it's it's always fun, like talking to Travis, and he's like, "Oh, I'm working on this or that." Or I went one time down to your shop, and it sounded like your forge was breathing.
Oh yeah, well that's that temperature.
It sounded
control.
like a dragon breathing.
Right. And it looks like dragon breath coming out in that big curling circle at you too.
It was some turbine, something going.
Yeah.
I don't know what
it had. All. I mean, I've gone different iterations because you go. In version 1 of temp control, you have a fixed blower supplying your air for your forge, and then you have a gas line that has two valves and a solenoid, and it clicks from idle to high, And so it did different variations. I go, well, I don't want to just vary the air. Okay, how can I do gas? And so I built different systems where, okay, we're using compressed air for the air, and then propane for your gas, and you tune it like a torch, and whatever. And that was all cool, but you need an air compressor and stuff. And so some of it's just was seeing some of the different advancements and some of the different blowers and electric motors and the control of electric motors. And that's what really starts helping dial in.
Is that what you were kind of talking about that instantaneous change in air?
It's basically motor technology.
Yes. The original blowers were all squirrel cage blowers.
Yep. I still have the original squirrel cage blower on my current forge that my dad put on my forge when I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah. That thing, I keep waiting for it to die.
They'll run forever, but you can't vary the speed of the air quick enough to have it react with the gas adjusting.
Right. Yep.
So coming up with the ability to have that instantaneous motor control gives you the ability to do that.
Sure. Yeah, it's super interesting stuff for sure. The part of the reason, well, really the main reason that you're here now today is, I think I first asked you about this when I started MKC, basically. Was asking about like a smaller grinder to be able to like travel, and your big TW-90s are great for on a bench at home, but they're not exactly what you want to take on an airplane.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm guilty of kind of like being what's the guy that made all the cool shit for Batman, but like didn't have a Batman, so I built all the cool shit that I wanted.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if I built my first small machine knowing I was going to go on Forged and Fire, or if I just kind of started that ahead of time. And but somewhere around in at the very beginning of Forged and Fire, I built a small mini grinder prototype, and I actually packed it. I took it to Forged and Fire. And I took it on my airplane, and I took it to the thing, and I had my little mini grinder in the hotel at Forged and Fire, and was like, because I didn't want to use their machines.
Right.
I make my own grinders. I didn't want to use the grinders that were there, and I said, oh, I brought my own. He said I could bring a tool. I brought my own grinders here in the suitcase.
Did they let you use it?
No. Not at all. Not at all. They would not let me bring that sucker in there. So
that's funny.
So I just decided I'd just go ahead and use it at my home shop. So I ground 2 swords on a grinder that weighed less than 40 pounds because I could.
Yeah.
And
and then you took it in the Superstition Mountains.
Yeah.
On
so
mules.
Then the next version. So when Tim Hancock passed, we had a celebration of life at my home shop, and and this is every person has their different ways of grieving and remembering and whatnot else. And so whatever process this was, a celebration of life, we made what I called Tim 94 steel, which was basically 1084 powder with Tim % extra carbon, added in by the sprinkling of his ashes into the canisters with the metal. And so then we forged out some basically just mono steel, say Tim 94, and in the steel you would see the little specks of where their metal wasn't, but where their metal wasn't, that's because that's where some of Tim was.
Right.
And so but you go and you put your buddy in a blade, you don't necessarily want to sweep him into the trash afterwards.
Yeah.
So we forged out whatever blades, and then it's right around his birthday, it'd been December 12th. I think it ended up being like December 11th, but it's a few days. And so we had 13 equines and 12 riders, and we packed in one of my little mini grinder prototypes and a tripod and a 24-volt jump your jump your big vehicle battery pack. And we packed all that stuff in the Superstition mount and set up a tripod in a nice little ravine kind of deal to where it's just a nice spot. And hell, we ground like 4 knives.
Yeah.
On battery with battery to spare. I go, God damn it, I brought too much battery. And but yeah, that was quite and I still need to finish the knives or whatnot. But they go that a lot of that things wasn't about doing a whole lot right now, but setting up projects over the next course of I don't know how many years that lead to the memory or generate own memories.
Yeah.
And
and the reason for the Superstition Mountains, that's where Tim always went riding in the winter.
Yeah, he would, and I got to go on a few rides. He was a. I don't want to say like when you say Dutch hunter, you don't want to get like I'm going to find the gold. No, he was a Lost Dutchman's enthusiast and expert. And
the Lost
all
Dutchman
kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
and would find different artifacts, and had digging bars with like Peralta's initials on it, and so he was quite the historian there.
Yeah,
and I got to go on 2 trips with him in the Superstitions, and then now I go every year. I go every year right around. It's kind of evolved to like a New Year's ride because going by yourself is dumb. But I went one year on New Year's and just happened up to find this booze cruise of riders on New Year's. So that way, if I didn't have anybody else to go on my Superstition ride, I know if I go New Year's, I'll find there'll be some riders there and it'll be interesting.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, yeah. So it was kind of years ago I asked you about a mini grinder, but you were working on them and you kept blowing up. You kept blowing up motors. And
I kept blowing up power supplies and electronics. And, I didn't realize, well, it wasn't my background of mechanical engineering.
Was it Eric that helped you solve that, or was it?
Eric did a big part in helping solve it. Yeah. Some of it was like, so I have a power supply, and if you're using batteries, no big deal. And if you're powering a motor and it has a big flywheel, kind of like a grinder, and then you turn that off, and it keeps going, it's going to generate and backfeed current. Mm-hmm. So I'd be all excited, man, look how great this thing's working. I'd turn it off. Dang it. Yeah. $500.
Smoke.
Poof.
Yeah.
Because at the time, those components, the particular component I was blowing up was like $460 a pop.
Yeah.
And then for some mystery, you turn it down and poof. And we came in like, I don't remember if it was early 2020 or whatnot, we come out. And I brought a couple or a prototype or whatnot. But in demonstrating with another friend, I blew up the stuff. Josh, I was going to show you this thing, but like my electrons escaped.
Yeah.
You can't get them back in there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because over the years we started doing more and more events, and last year, and I've over the years kind of been, how's that mini grinder going? Oh, it's going, but I'm working on some things and trying to figure it out. And then this last spring, we had one of your TW-90s and a buffer, and I went and bought a really nice big toolbox at Home Depot with the wood top, and I bolted everything onto it, and it was pretty nice if it was on a concrete floor and you're just rolling it around. But the problem is we have to load this shit in a trailer and haul it to wherever. And I also built some big crates to be able to just ship them on a semi to an event. And Braxton, our show guy, showed up to I want to say it was down in Atlanta at Dallas Safari Club or maybe it was Nashville, but he showed up and our crate was there and the grinder had fallen through the floor because it weighed so much. And he calls me and he's like, "We have a problem." He had to, and it broke the top of the toolbox in half. The brand new board, yeah. Just cheap Home Depot Chinese shit, But I was like, well, we can't make this any heavier. Like to correct the situation, I'm going to have to add weight to the crate to the floor, which was already 2 layers of plywood, and it went through that. Also, it was all that 2 dudes could do to just get the thing in and out of the trailer. And then sometimes we show up to events and they're like, well, hey, you're unloading here, but you're over there in that field somewhere and it's raining, and like, how are you going to drag this thing across the field? So that's where this summer I called Travis and I was like, all right, Travis, you have to October 1st. And I think that's all Travis really needed was a date. And then you were like,
well,
then you were on it.
I built that first mini grinder before I went, like in 2013 or 14 or whatever. So it's been like, I see the Facebook memories.
12-year process.
Yeah. And so like, I'll see like the memories that come up every year. And there is this little mini grinder prototype that I had in my hotel room in New York.
Yeah.
You know, go look at this, guys, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, and then, you know, I had a batch of 20 of the motors and drives done in like 2019, right at COVID. I had the,
yep.
I was watching that right before New Year's. My batch of motors and electronics and stuff were being made, and I'm like,
and that's right when I was starting MKC.
yeah, right at the same, you know.
Yep.
But then, you know, I it took a while before I solved the electrons escaping from my different components, and then over that course of time, I've built like 5 different versions. You know, so there's been like 5 different versions of quote mini grinder. From the first one to then the one that went to the Superstition, some printed machines in between, and then, you know, what I brought here today, because I made the motor so overkill powerful in this small little deal that it's got enough power to run a 2x72 belt and grind full-size knives.
Yeah.
But it also sharpened like a son of a...
Are you wanting to let any pictures of this thing out in its current state yet or not? You wanting to hang off for a little bit?
I'm still kind of figuring. It's kind of like you like it to be a good show, and we're kind of like, you know, like that was kind of a thing of bringing it here. Is I go, you know, you have this machine. Sometimes you have too many variables. Sometimes you need to fix it because, like, the machine that you can take anywhere still needs a base, still needs to have a purpose, still needs to have a job.
And that's where, you know, this is an interesting spot for you, because what I need personally for what we do is relatively minimal compared to if you're selling that machine to a kind of hobbyist Forge and Fire fan for his garage. He's going to need some more capabilities, potentially, if he kind of wants to expand his knife making out. And so trying to figure out day one what works just to get us going and what we need, but then also what's going to be, if you decide to market this thing, what's going to be the most marketable.
You have a lot of things, like, you know, it's like I want a 2x72 performance, but I don't want the 2x72 weight or size.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so like I used to
That's the size of the belt for people that don't know.
So yeah, 2" by 72". That's your knife maker's kind of favorite go-to size. But then other common sizes that you can still get good abrasives, because you have to be able to source good abrasives to work with good steels.
Mm-hmm.
You can't grind the steel. So 1x42 is a belt size that you can get good stuff in. Mm-hmm. 2x48 is a belt size you can get good stuff in, and then a few others. But you know, and but just happened. I used to do a lot of. I actually was in the first UTV, or like Polaris Ranger, to actually finish a Baja race, and so I used to do a lot of fabrication and build prototypes and other stuff for grad students. And you know, I would work on Baja cars to build roll cages for stuff, and I would bring. I didn't have TW-90 at that time, but I would bring my Bader B3 and haul that, because if I'm going to be doing the fabrication, I need a grinder,
right?
And so now, but you're not necessarily grinding production knives full time,
right?
You know, and so like the smaller size of being able to, like, you know, okay, I could put in a briefcase like a portaband.
Yeah.
You know, so when I brought 2 machines here, I shipped one of them because I shipped the tripod and wanted to have a known thing here. Mm-hmm. And then the other one I brought in my suitcase because I knew I could.
Yep.
And
that for us to be able to, if I get an invitation to, hey, come out to this little thing for a day, demo, sharpen some knives, head home. Like I'm not taking a whole trailer and a big crate and whatever. And so to be able to throw our little setup in a bag is going to be awesome. I do think you're onto something here as you kind of just dial in the few. I mean, really, it's just more about finishes at this point and a couple little things. But you get that stuff all dialed in and to a place where a guy can either set it up on a tripod if he wants, or he can drop it in a receiver on a bench. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are interested in this thing. Like you say, maybe they're setting it up in a NASCAR trailer, traveling around, or you know, like you say, a motorcycle race or rally cars or whatever. And then I think I see more and more guys making pretty decent livings with just a little trailer, going down and parking at Cabela's and just sharpening knives for a Saturday.
Well, I get, you know, there's a lot of pretty women that need their shears sharpened.
Yeah,
and I need a haircut.
Yeah. So I think. And also, there's a barrier kind of to entry for like the guy who watches Forged in Fire or meets a knife maker and decides he wants to try it, or his kid wants a grinder, like you're saying was the case for you. But they don't maybe necessarily want to spend the money on a big grinder. Maybe they don't have the room.
And shop space.
Yeah, shop space.
And they make messes.
Yeah.
So wherever you put a grinder, you better have a broom.
Yeah, what do you think of this thing?
The receiver concept is incredible. I've got, I've had one that I've been playing with for about 3 years, and I primarily use it in 1x42, and I love grinding with it in 1x42, and
if you have a folder blade that's 2 3/4 inches long,
exactly,
you don't need a 2-inch wide belt.
Great. And in my area, I've got a shop that's down at the bottom of the property, and I've got another portion of a shop that's up in the upper property, and I've got bench receivers in each location. I can just pick this up, carry it to wherever I want, plug it in where I want to use it.
Yep.
And you're off to the races.
Yeah, even a farmer or rancher guy could have a receiver on the back of his flatbed truck.
I even built
You're running off your truck battery.
I even built a trailer hitch receiver that has a little receiver on it, and I can put it on there, and I can drive it to the other side of my property and do fence work or whatever I need to do with the little mini grinder. It's great.
Yeah, that's what's unique about this. It can run off of 120 volt, 240 volt, or
so basically
DC
I can run on any voltage. So it'll accept any voltage from say 12 volts to 30 volts DC. And so essentially you're using whether we're running on battery or whether running it on a power supply, you have the versatility. And I've done different units where it's a hybrid, and you just about make the little motor make as much power or more power than a full-size TW-90 even.
Yeah, some of the videos you've sent me on this little thing, I mean, you're hogging steel. This isn't like a toy.
Well,
grinder.
I'm spoiled. So like it's got to be able to keep up with my fetishes. You know, and I want to be able to make steel disappear. I want to be like a magician. Like now you see it, now it's on the floor. Now you don't. Now, whoosh.
Yeah, you kept sending me those videos, and I'm like, yeah, Travis going to be disappointed when he sees what we're using it for.
Not disappointed.
Or it's like having a 500 horsepower car, but we only drive 25.
We're allowed to idle.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is nice, I mean, for me to have that optionality if I do want to do a demo, like a grinding demo.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to crank it up. And of course, when you're doing a demo, people want to see sparks.
Oh, yeah. Smoke, noise, and fire. If you can set the carpet on fire, more power to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm super excited. I think by December, that's really our first event is the National Finals Rodeo. So I think by December, you're going to kind of have the final little tweaks done. And
it'll be nice because I will have had that much feedback with the machine left in your sharpening room. Yeah. And then,
people
meet you there, and
people might be able to see it in person there, and maybe we can start leaking it out there. Is this something you think by next year you might actually start offering up for sale? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think so. Hell, Blade shows beginning of June.
Yeah.
And, like a big thing, like I said before, is I kept letting the electrons escape.
Yeah.
And so I think I got that kind of wrapped up, so that makes it a lot easier. It's a lot more encouraging when you're not.
Yeah.
When things aren't blowing up.
Yeah. Do you think you might debut it there?
I think so.
Yeah.
Hell, I took it to Blade Show 12 years ago. I just had it little baggy, and, every part on it was handmade.
Yeah.
The whole drive box was me cranking dials on a manual mill and everything.
Yeah.
Hell, your first TW-90, all those parts were the same way. They're made manually by Trav.
I got to have you show me in there which one's which. See if you
I'll
can
have to
tell.
see. I'd be able to tell by kind of like some of the arms and stuff, because you'll look at the arms and be like, okay, that radius was ground and not machined.
Right.
And so there are some little telltale things of some of the components. Be like, yeah, Trav made that.
Yeah, kind of a collector's item. Eric, so was Travis right? You have a website that people can go to, like for forge stuff?
It is a website I put together years ago, and as I mentioned, I haven't updated it since 2012, but it was more of an informational website
Yeah.
that I would use to share to other knife makers that had interests in how to build certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing is that you go through and you can do a little shop tour of hot shop and cold shop sort of thing. And if you click on the pictures, it'll give you details of how certain things were built, along with pictures of the build process, that sort of thing. So my only interest there was people were asking me a lot of questions. I wanted to provide a method for people to go through and really understand some of the things I was sharing at the time.
Yeah, it's hard a lot of times for people to get good information. Sometimes guys come up with stuff, but then they don't really want to share it out too much or don't have the time or whatever. So it's cool you did that. What was your background in like how you got so good at all this control stuff? Like your day job or?
Sure. Day job at the time was working for a company that did software as a service for the emergency and medical transport industry. So my job was technology operations. I was chief technology officer and did a lot of things with the company. Wore many hats. We grew it from a small company up to 200 people.
Oh, really?
Before we went through and sold that to a major player out there in the industry.
Okay.
But it gave me the opportunity to really, over the years, to understand how to program and get jobs done, time management, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had, I didn't sleep a lot. I had to have things to keep me busy at nighttime. So I do a lot of research. Mm-hmm. And if I wanted to design something, I'd go figure it out. Mm-hmm. I'd learn fluid dynamics. I'd learn how to go through and program controllers to do what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And just would play around with it until I got it right.
Do you still love doing that and playing around with stuff?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I have a great time doing that.
What are you working on now? Like what's kind of like do you have something that's kind of stuck in your head you're working on, or?
I am dialing in. For quite a while now, I've done a lot of things with forge presses. Mm-hmm. And I've done recently a fair amount with touchscreen forge controls and dialing in just the way I like to use a press controller and how to make that work very easily for different sizes of stock, to immediately be able to select on the screen with a touch of a finger what your stops are going to be and things like that.
Yeah, for people that don't know, when you're forging down a bar from 3 or 4 inches square and you need to take it down to, say, a 1 inch square to chop it up and maybe do a restack of some kind, or maybe you just wanted a 1/4 inch thick, whatever dimension that you want. Traditionally, we always like, okay, you want a 1 inch square? We'd go find a 1 inch bar and chop off a couple, chunks of it or whatever, and set it on the dies of the press. And so when that press came down and hit that cold bar of steel on both sides, it would stop. It would basically just bottom out, and it couldn't squeeze anymore because that steel's cold and sitting there. And it worked, but you're limited to whatever stock sizes you have sitting around. Let's say you get all the way down there and your bar is still like a 1/16 of an inch away from being square. Well, you don't necessarily need it 1 inch. You need it square in that range. Well, now all of a sudden you need to go down to 15/16 instead of 1 inch, and you're kind of screwed. And your stop blocks, you're knocking them off your dies. They're getting hot. You're trying to move them. They're falling off.
Trying to find them underneath the press when they fall off.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of things. And so the ability to be able to kind of just select, mine is set up in a way that's not quite as state-of-the-art as yours, but it's just a slider on a ruler. But it does allow me to kind of stop wherever I want to stop.
Is that the one that Jeremy and I installed and Eric, like on 2012 at your hammer in?
Yeah, Matt Whitmus made it. Matt Whitmus built it. I don't know.
You're talking about your press. No. Oh, wait, no, yeah, that's the blue press. I'm sorry. I'm completely, I got my hammer ins confused, and we had added some of the, never mind.
Yeah,
we
totally
did
got
that one
confused.
out at Mike Benino's
Yeah,
shop.
that was Benino's that he
at a
did.
hamburger
Okay.
out there.
I was going to say, because with my memory, if you told me you were here when I installed it, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Well, like in 2012, we did a salt pot deal because we worked on.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's.
Yeah, so that press, and it's got a rolling mill also plumbed into all that. But, I mean, even just that for me was a game changer to be able to just set a kind of an auto stop.
Yeah, that's a beautiful press. I really like that design in the rolling mill with
it works.
Having the hydraulics outside and the press inside, so it's just quiet and it moves and squishes like magic.
It's pretty nice.
I look forward to that. That's cool.
When I moved my forging shop into this building, I was the other day I was looking at all my hoses and thinking, what a pain in the ass it's going to be. But still, I want to put those motors outside the room.
It's so much nicer.
Oh, so much nicer. Yeah. But yeah, that's again, for a knife maker, it's already hard to make money making knives. If you're a custom knife maker, it's a tough way to make a living. And so if it means saving a half hour here and there on a project because you're not screwing around with stop blocks, you're much more efficient, you're more accurate. All those little advantages lead up to maybe being able to make a little bit more money on a project, and just makes it more enjoyable. So,
and part of playing around with things and having the time to play around with things is there's some touchscreen controls that are out there right now. But I wanted the ability to go through and tailor the flow and to exactly what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So just going through and having the ability to change the way things are laid out, how it operates, that's just been kind of something that's been fun to do.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you make much for knives?
I make knives currently infrequently because I'm on the road so much, traveling with my wife and our horses. So
that's kind of what I wondered, if you get in there much to actually make knives. And
my son and I will probably make, a handful a year.
Yeah.
And so we kind of use it as a father-son thing that started this whole thing for us together.
That's cool.
And it's a lot of fun. Really, lately I've enjoyed folders a lot.
Yeah.
And that's been a lot
What style lock?
Interesting folder. It's something that learned from Owen Wood.
Yeah.
And it's using carbon fiber scales. That the carbon fiber is actually also the locking spring mechanism. It's difficult to explain, but if I showed you, you'd say, "Oh wow, I understand how that works." But there's no titanium as part of the liner. It's all carbon fiber, ultralight.
Right. Very cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Owen is another one of those just brilliant guys when it comes to making Damascus and making knives and everything that he does. Just a super bright. He's one of those guys I brought up here a couple times for hammer-ins.
Oh yeah.
Just selfishly because I wanted him to be around and I could learn from him. The problem is when you're running those hammer-ins, a lot of times you're so busy trying to get things for the next guy or answering questions, you don't sit down and actually get to watch the class. I enjoy going to hammer-ins more than I enjoy putting them on, because I actually get to sit there and listen and not be responsible for the experience. But yeah, you still running your hammer-in?
Yeah, I've had
how many years in a row now? It's been a while. What year did you start that?
Well, so the first hammer-in that we did, that we actually called it a hammer-in, would have been 2011. But in 2010 and 2009, the Arizona Knife Collectors Association, at the time Ray Rybar, I think, was president, and they would do shop tours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did 2 basically single-day hammer-ins before we did a full hammer-in. And that a lot comes because of my family, and they wanted, like, my dad, we can host that, we're at the farm and got the farm, and so, but anyway, 2011 till current, continuous.
Yeah, every March, right? Usually?
Every March, basically, some in that area.
Yeah.
We're in when it's still like under 100
It's a good
degrees.
time to go to Arizona.
Yeah, you're
from
like
north.
you're starting to, like, the snowbirds are coming. We started hitting in the double digits. So
do you notice feels like the population grows down there?
Oh
in
yeah,
November.
Oh yeah. The traffic. It's fine. It's a wonderful thing. Like if you're going to import a whole bunch of like Midwesterners, your city doesn't get better or doesn't get worse. I mean, like there's a bunch of nice people coming here to stay and spend money.
Right.
And if you're a snowbird, you didn't screw up too badly in life.
Right.
You have residents here and you have residents here.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I could definitely stand getting out of Montana in January, February for a couple months.
Yeah. That's how I feel like in June, July, August.
Yeah.
Like anywhere else.
Yeah. A lot of heat down there. Yeah. I don't really mind winter until about the 1st of February. And then at that point, I'm super over it. And then we start getting into that. It can't decide if it wants to yet be spring, and then it can really still be winter hard. And then it tries to be spring for a little bit, and you get some rain and a bunch of ice and a bunch of slush and mud, and then it's back to winter. And and that goes on till about mid-April. That's the time of year where I'm just like, I could be out of here.
Yeah.
First couple months of winter, it's kind of fun. The snow, it's pretty and it's cold and it's all good, but
it's a nice change until it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that changeover of seasons well, you saw it yesterday. I mean, it looked like it was trying to rain or snow here all day. I got to tell people I appreciate these two. They show up for this deal, but we already had some things planned, and they were here a couple hours, and then it was like, all right, we're gonna go pick garbage up along the highway. So basically, like a bunch of convicts. We as a company adopted in Montana, we have this adopt a highway section. So it's a 2-mile stretch of road, the north side of the interstate. And so we said we'd adopt that. And then a bunch of our employees volunteered to go out and help clean up garbage. And we thought walk along, pick up a little garbage and take an hour and we'd have the whole thing nice and clean. Like, oh, you start at that end, we'll start at this end. We'll each clean our mile and it won't be that big a deal. And I think after about the first 20 minutes, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, we're not going to get as far as I thought we were going to get. There's a lot of damn garbage in the ditches. It's crazy. It's more than I expected. But you guys, of course, you didn't have gloves on, so
sometimes it's cheaper to grow skin than buy gloves.
And let me tell you, that was an outstanding event, and I really appreciate that you put that on, and great to see all of your employees out there and hang with them and work beside them to get the job done. I mean, it's just outstanding.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. We have a really special group of people. I mean, we brought that up, and it's like, who wants to go? And, 20, 25 names or people or whatever raised their hand immediately, and it was off the clock. It's volunteer work, but very cool that they would do that. And most of our employees are pretty young. I'm sure they have lots of things they could go and do and have a good time. But, yeah, it's been cool being able to, go spend time outside. Because then we after that we went down and had pizza and beer with them, and it's nice to go bond with the employees. And a lot of times I'm stuck up here in meetings and whatnot, and not as involved. So it's nice to actually have a chance to go hang out and have pizza and just BS with the employees and hang out. I really enjoy that. But yeah, it's lots of things changed in the last 4 or 5 years around here. It's been kind of wild, but you guys have seen the evolution as far as here from first hammer-ins to
2010 to 25.
Yeah, crazy. A
lot has changed.
Yeah, the first hammer-in, I was married and living in a double-wide trailer, and then I think the last hammer-in, I got divorced just after that, and then right after that, my house. I actually had a hammer-in plan that year. I was going to do a hammer-in.
I remember when there was one plan that then didn't happen.
Yeah, when my house burned down.
Yeah.
And then I planned another one. The first year I started MKC, I had all planned. In fact, I had a bunch of people paying their, registration money. Sent all their registration money in. We were going to do one in 2020. Yeah. And I started planning that in 2019.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, I think in the wintertime, people started sending their money in or whatever. And then COVID hit. And, it was in February. And I was like, by June, we'll be fine. And then all of a sudden by May, it was like, I don't think we're going to be fine. Like, this isn't going to go. And so then I had to cancel that and then figure out how to get everybody's money back to them because checks came in and PayPal and, yeah, what a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. But
we were at Travis's hammer-in when COVID hit, and people were wondering if they were going to be able to get back to their.
It was kind of good for grind. I saw like couple grinders to folks that were like, "Can I pick up a machine? Everything's shut down. We can't even get on our plane. We're driving."
Yeah.
They're like, "Bought a grinder because we couldn't do anything else."
Well, it was a good time to buy a grinder and be at home all day.
Yeah. It's like, well, we can't even make our airplane.
Yeah.
They had to rent a car and drive back. They couldn't fly back. I forget what state they were from, but
yeah, that was crazy. And I kept thinking still about having the hammer in, but then it got to the point where it's like, you start worrying like, well, what if somebody gets, comes here and gets sick and, or makes my family sick or whatever. And yeah, so what a shit show. And then I was like, well, I'll just do it next year. And then MKC kind of blew up to the point where I was like, didn't have time to be able to put that on. But I really hope maybe even this next in 26 to be able to do that in this building. If I can get my shop kind of set up for it here, that'll be the challenge. But what kind of projects are you laying awake at night staring at the ceiling thinking about now? Do you have some ideas, some things you're thinking of coming up with? Or
I mean, there's the ideas of what you want to develop, and then there's the reality of getting it done.
Yeah.
And so I'm, not a whole lot of bodies in my company. So when I get tied up in R&D,
yeah,
then people start waiting on their
grinders
stuff,
and
and so like that's a thing that I got to be careful on, because like, I want to develop this and I want to develop this and I want the atmosphere and temp control forwards and like the press that whatever and the mini grinder and then TW-90 components. But if I'm spending all my time in R&D, it's like, I developed this whole line of knives. How many have you built? One of each.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Are people still able to go through your website? And that's the only place.
Right now, my website needs work because I'm here and I need to do some troubleshooting of it. I get my web guy, and so it's struggling right now. Like it needs.
If somebody wants to order a grinder, do they just email you?
Basically, it's still a phone call or email. And you buy it right on my site.
Yeah.
It's just I can't. Just right now, currently, it needs work.
Yeah.
But as I get back, that'll be my first deal, and by the end of the week, it'll be.
I need to rebuild my own website too. My own personal. It's been up since 2000. I don't know. Turn of the millennium, and my website needs some serious work. But those things happen when the technology moves along.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
But what at what age did you do you remember somebody commenting on it, or like what point did you feel like or recognize that you kind of had a gift with your mind with making things and seeing, like, are you able to kind of build things in your head and see it all? Like, it seems
a lot of,
you're not normal, Travis. That's what I'm trying to get at. When did you know you're not normal? Because you're like a genius when it comes to coming up with this stuff and seeing it in your head. Like, it feels like when I'm talking to you, like you're building things in your mind.
Oh yeah, you get a lot of visualization.
When did you recognize that was a kind of a gift?
I mean, I was always building stuff in the shop. I remember getting a pocket knife taken away in preschool. Not kindergarten, preschool.
Yeah.
And but we just always build stuff. And so like going through school, like knives were just the first thing that I could build that somebody wanted to buy.
Right.
Knives were the first thing that I could build and actually support myself. And that was right at 12, 13, because was grinding knives on a bench grinder. The stone side, one stone on one side and wire wheel on the other. And once your wheel wears down, you can't grind on the one side. But, that's what I was doing before meeting Tim and then getting serious at that. But, I built race cars and before doing. So I had extended college stay. And so I stayed at University of Arizona for about a decade. But that's okay, because I was paying for it. I was building stuff for professors, grad students, usually employed by the U of A, and one of their higher paid student employees. Yeah. Because I could build whatever they wanted. Yeah. And
well, even in high school, didn't you have a high school project you built?
Even in high school, I was able to make knives in high school, but like everything, I remember.
Didn't you sleep in the shop or something?
Not in high school so much. Now in college, so the home shop, the farm shop, is basically patterned after the university shop, the ag engineering shop, and they had a mezzanine. I had a mattress up there, and kind of. Anyway, I had a mattress up there, and so, So yeah, I kind of had that set, and then when we built the farm shop, and it had a mezzanine. I turned the mezzanine into my apartment. So for the first 7 to 8 years of my business, I literally lived upstairs, walk downstairs, build grinders, and real damn efficient.
Yeah,
socially a little. But
what was your high school shop projects you worked on? Didn't you do
high
something
school
with a
through
car?
FFA? The FFA did a lot of stuff, and so like when other students were building a dolly, for their ag project, I built a smoker on a trailer out of 24-inch heavy wall pipe, and
Really?
built the whole smoker and trailer in the same time that other people built the hand truck.
Yeah.
And but that's grew up with it. My dad was mechanically inclined, and my grandpa was just a quintessential farmer, and so baling wire, hammer, duct tape, rock, and and then Dad was like, he got into ag class, and he'll, like, I know all of his mentors, Phil Bond and whatever, this and that, the different ag teachers, or Dr. Jacobs, different professors and so even within my father, there was appreciation from those who would teach you something. Mm-hmm. And my father also knew that, I might not know everything, but, I can go drop my son off at someone that does.
Yeah.
And that was the same thing first lesson with Tim. Dad drove me up there, dropped me off.
Were you always did you always have a real learning attitude? I mean, just, a lot of kids when they're teenagers are, not interested in learning something from the old guy down the road or whatever, but you always kind of tend to soak up information.
Yeah, I would soak up stuff, but, some of it too is basically semi-grew up in isolation.
Yeah.
10 miles outside of town, not like isolation, but you're on a farm. You go, okay, there's the folks, my brother, you see another kid, not till I go to school.
Yeah.
So there was no one of my own age group other than my brother to play with.
Right.
And so I just went out and built shit.
Right.
And as a kid, my brother coined the term, he's a shop manager.
Yeah.
And there's farm work to be done. He's going to manage to get to the shop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. Well, you're an air-conditioned tractor. I'm out loading hay and chopping weeds or whatever, doing manual labor. I didn't get no air conditioning work.
Yeah.
That's all I aspire is for air conditioning.
Yeah. Huh. So that's and then in college, what were some of your bigger cool projects you worked on?
So in college, it was worked out of the Ag and Biosystems Engineering shop, and so we'd get different stuff. We'd build different greenhouses that would go to Antarctica, be tested, then go to Mars. And then I built a lot of tractors for tractor pulls.
Wait, what about Mars? What now?
Well, they would just build shit to send to Mars. Or
out of your guys' egg center there? Or really?
And but a lot of it, it's not like I was taking it to Mars. We'd build these. Sometimes there'd be these different rings. We'd make these expandable greenhouses. That was the idea.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't necessarily go to Mars or nothing. They would go to Antarctica. So they would ship all this stuff to Antarctica, and they would be growing, living sustainably in Antarctica and stuff. So I didn't do any of the designs of that. That would be professors come in here, you have this spec, need this built. Can you build it? And sometimes I'd be working for the U of A. Sometimes they would just buy me shit.
Yeah.
And so I have stuff like toolboxes and helmets that were they just worked that into the part of the price of the project. And here's a welding helmet. Here's a deal. Okay, I can build your shit.
Yeah. Perfect.
And the tractors were a lot of fun. It was a student club, but they were doing pulling tractors. Mm-hmm. And so I think I built 5 of them. They'd give you an engine instead of tires. You build everything else within their constraints, and then
really
drive across the country and go compete against other schools. And
well, that's cool.
I remember the first year I was doing that. I was, let's say my behavior was such that they didn't really want to see me sitting in the seat of the tractor. And they made a point, the rule, Trav's in the seat of this tractor. You guys are not. I had my moments of shenanigans, and then going to the next year was asked to be on their committee because was building cool stuff, and all hand fabricated, all mechanical, multiple transmissions or whatnot in these tractors. And at one point they even created an award for a hitch design that I did that was a self-leveling hitch, even though that they had full 10 inches suspension travel on a tractor, which is, why would you want suspension? Well, I didn't want to build a tractor. I made it go 65 mile an hour, have full suspension, and hook up to a sled. Also had 4 engines.
Was that the project where you converted it to nitrous injected, or?
Well, so that was just, we had to use the stock motors, but you could put as many motors on as you could make weight for.
Oh, really?
So you could add, so we had 16 horsepower Briggs and Strattons. And so if you could make it weigh under 1,000 pounds, you game on.
Yeah.
But then you go, okay, 120 pounds per motor, 30 pounds per tire, 100 pounds per transmission. How light of a driver do we got?
Yeah.
It's an 80-pound girl. She'll be great.
Yeah.
Some teams didn't have that option. They had to make their tractor even lighter.
Yeah.
But then that kind of led into like some of the Baja stuff, and then working on some of the, like, I have an uncle that he started Scorpion Sports, a motorcycle helmet company, and this is before building TW-90s. And so they had this Polaris Ranger they wanted to race in Baja, and he had a bunch of work done, but then it was still slow, and they brought it to me, and I was in the U of A shop. They had, mattress upstairs and fapping all this stuff on this Baja car. And like I did, they used to blow up all the belts, the drive belts. So I made a scoop for that assembly. And so I had an air cooling thing to stop blowing up the belts, and then drop the seats by like 5.5 inches. So you move 500 pounds of person down 5 inches, big difference in performance. But
Yeah.
Back then, it was like you're racing a shoebox on end because the Polarises were so tall. It was before the Razor come out. So we were basically, our car was essentially research for the Razor that come out later. And but that was kind of a neat thing, being the first UTV to ever finish a Baja race.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat. Every now and then I'll see an OMF exhaust commercial, or not commercial, but ad, and it's like our little buggy crossing the cattle guard in Mexico.
Really?
And it's an exhaust commercial or exhaust ad, and I'm like, but I made the exhaust.
Jeez.
It's just a little fun thing.
Did you, along with getting an engineering degree, you have all the academic side, sitting in classes and doing all that stuff. Did you always find the academic stuff pretty easy? Would you have pretty good memory on that stuff?
Some stuff was easy, but like my high school wasn't known for academics. It was known for high teenage pregnancy rate.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And I would have known by now. And so, but like, yeah, that just wasn't that way. It wasn't bad. I had great teachers.
Yeah.
I
just
had,
not super advanced, maybe.
it's just like going into calculus my freshman year of college, where we were going to do like a pre-calc, but then everybody's in my math class in high school, their skills were so awful, and probably self-included because one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like algebra review instead. And so get to college, and it's like my first calculus test had like a lowest grade at 20%.
Oh, shit.
Second test had 100%.
Really?
But the first test had a 20. The professor's like, I don't think you should take this class. I don't have an option.
Yeah. So how'd you figure it out?
I went to tutoring.
Did you?
I was horrible at doing homework. I wouldn't do once I got home. But I go, well, if I just
manage to get yourself to the shop.
If I just go and if I just stay while I'm at school, be at school.
Yeah.
When I go home, I'm at home.
Right.
Homework wasn't getting done at home.
So you just stayed at school.
Yeah, I just in between class, go to tutoring, help me. Ask for help.
Yeah.
Go figure. Probably somebody that get a kick out of helping you.
Yeah. Do you did you, with learning all that math stuff, do you feel like it was do you have a little bit of a photographic memory, or how do you so quickly go from being poor at something like that math when you first got there to acing the second test? You have a pretty good recall?
Probably pretty like visual recall and stuff. So it's like it's kind of like when you look around, you go take a picture and go see, okay, could I draw? Could you draw what you see in that room?
Right.
And
you're pretty good at that.
Pretty good at that. Like, because a lot of that was like, I want to build a thing, but I need something welded. All right, I'm gonna have to go explain what I want to build to Dad. All right, Dad, it's gonna be like this. It's gonna have a thing, whatever here. Huh? Damn it. All right.
Yeah.
How about now? What's that? God damn it. It's this.
Yeah.
So then before you know it, you're drawing 3-dimensional views and backside and just so you can get the point across so you could get help.
Right.
Like, I need this thing. What's it look like?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of just like being able to visualize, but then it becomes, can I communicate this to somebody?
Right.
Because you can't do it all yourself. You can't learn every skill.
Right.
And so like that's some of this, like the Ford stuff, it'd be like, all right, Eric, I built a little thing, but I had to use these individual parts and all this wiring or whatnot. And then Eric's like, well, I got a screen. I touch it. That is nicer.
What about you going through school and whatnot? Did you have, were you pretty good with the academics? And did you, it seems like you also have an ability to learn things really fast and retain.
Yes, I grew up with a true photographic memory.
Did you?
I didn't have to study.
Really?
I just look at something once. I never knew what a highlighter was. Just read it, and it was there. I could recall the page in my mind.
Really?
I could recall the words on the page.
So all the way through high school, just pretty easy to get good grades. And
it all lasted until I was about 40.
Really?
Yeah. And then it started going downhill pretty fast.
Really?
Yes.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that's more because during that stretch of time you're in such a learning stage of life between high school, college, new jobs? Like, do you think is it a muscle that's just not being used as much, or do you just think it's an aging thing?
No, I think it's an aging thing because I've got a very busy mind.
Yeah.
Always working, and it just hasn't stopped. And
yeah.
And from a very young age, and for things like building things. And when I was in junior high, I had a neighbor. His father was a shop teacher, a wood shop teacher, and I would enroll in every shop class they would have during summer school. And for every year, as long as they'd let me go, I'd be in these different shop, wood shop, metal shop,
yeah,
fiberglass fabrication, everything that I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
And building things has always been a real passion.
Yeah.
But
and which is an interesting combination, because you find a lot of really academically gifted people aren't necessarily real great with their hands or builders a lot of times. It feels like that, but it's pretty cool when you can combine that academic background and that ability with your mind to then also apply it to building things with your hands.
Sure.
Because you see a lot of engineers that do a lot of design, but they don't necessarily turn the knobs on a mill. They can hand it to the manufacturing department, but that can be, and we've discussed that, like as we're hiring engineers and whatnot, designers, it's fine if you can design something, but can it actually be built? Because if you design stuff that can't be built, well, what are we doing here? I think that's what's unique about several of our engineers is they can actually run all the machines as well. And so they know the constraints on design of a project, tooling, whatever, like can it be built, which helps in your manufacturing department a lot.
And CAD has changed everything for that. CAD is just, you can build it, test it, everything right there on your screen before you start cutting parts.
Yeah.
And back in the day, it was all drafting. You're at the drafting board, and you're using pencils and rulers and everything to draw things to an exact scale.
Yeah.
And then you'd go out and you'd build things off your drafting board.
Yeah.
But CAD is just such a game changer.
Yeah. 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 The drafting, that's going to be just a lost art.
Oh, yeah.
At what age did people start to recognize, or did you really notice like, oh, you're different than most kids as far as just your ability to remember? Was it pretty early?
Yeah, it was pretty early.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably in grade school.
Did your friends hate you?
No.
I would have felt like they're studying for their tests, and you're like, yeah, I read it a few days ago, and they're just like, God, Eric.
I didn't tell anybody.
Really?
Yeah, people didn't know.
Really?
Yeah, no idea.
So you were just like, oh yeah, I studied a bunch last night too. Just yeah.
We never talked about it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't discussed. So it was
really,
like, how'd you do? Oh, how'd you do?
Did your parents know that you had that kind of memory?
They figured it out.
Yeah.
But it's nothing I've really discussed with them either.
Yeah.
It's just it felt normal.
Right. Yeah. You only know your reality.
Right.
Yeah. That had to have been a superpower, especially in college and like engineering programs and whatnot. Did you finish school faster than average?
Yes, I did. Starting in high school, I finished all my classes maybe a couple months before the semester ended.
Really?
And you sign up to help with stuff in class, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And college finished a 5-year program in 3 years.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
See, really nice. Some people say that college is like the best 4 years of your life, and I took that and said, you know what? Why not have it be the best 10?
Yeah. So you really enjoyed college.
I had a good time. I had it made in college. I had 24 access to a fully equipped machine shop where if I broke something, they would just replace it.
Yeah.
And
but you must have had really good instructors that allowed that.
I had some real patient people that put up with a lot of shit from me. My department head, Dr. Slack, he probably bought a dozen knives for me by the time I was done with my freshman year.
Really?
And
yeah, but he must. It's cool when a teacher recognizes ambition and talent, and even if that comes with a 19-year-old being a little bit of a pain in the ass at times. He obviously your instructors recognized your passion and your ability.
Well, it was nice too when you have a lot of it is like in the ag community, the FFA.
Yeah.
And so like my ag teacher worked for Charlie, who ran the U of A shop. Mm-hmm. And so like we'd go down to ag mechanics competitions down to the U of A. And as a freshman in high school, like Mr. Sipes, like, hey, Charlie, you got to meet this kid. Mm-hmm. He's doing this. He's already been, as a freshman, I was watching the seniors in the shop.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. Travis, you go watch, make sure they don't. And as a freshman, like babysitting seniors.
Right.
And, but so like, yeah, that early deal of like, well, yeah, check this out. And then pass them along to here. So,
right.
And, maybe it was just adults like, let's see what happens if we watch. He's going to, just put him over here and just watch.
Yeah. Yeah. It had to have been exciting for them, though, seeing a young kid coming up that's got.
Oh, I appreciate that. When I see someone that comes and they ask like grinder questions, because I'm setting up every knife show I go to, mm-hmm. I'm grinding a dozen blades just for demonstration. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time you get show and tell, and then you get to put the names with the faces, and oh, you're so and so who has this, and then, oh, this is your son or this is your daughter that's doing this.
Yeah.
And then they take a picture, and so I'll have pictures with different kids growing up that are like, it's been 15 years of building grinders. So like a kid that started off might have at 10 is now 25. Like,
right. Yeah, I know it happens. I used to always just be the young kid of the industry, and then now I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm not the young kid anymore. That's
kind of where I got the stash instead of the beard. I was like, I don't know if I can do with all that gray.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Were you building pretty advanced projects and stuff when you were doing your shop classes and whatnot you were talking about?
Yeah. Usually folks would be building model boats and stuff like that. I'd be building full-size boats.
Really?
And, little race hydroplanes and stuff like that, just having a really good time with that.
Were you going to competitions and stuff with your school, or?
No, they didn't really have those at that time. It was more just here's a vehicle for you to learn, and these are things that you can do.
Yeah. What was your degree in? College degree?
College degree was computer science. So it's
you said
software engineering.
Why did you choose that? I mean, obviously with your abilities and your mind and everything, you could have chosen any field.
It was my fourth major.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you started in some other stuff.
So I did. I first thought about marine biology and because just loved the ocean, loved diving, mm-hmm. and found out there's no money in it. It's all grant based.
Right.
And went off to a few other things. My last thing before computer science was physiological psychology.
Okay.
And went pretty far down that path and decided that my peers, it'd be tough to work with them for all those years going forward because most of them were in the field because they had an issue themselves they were trying to solve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And computers were really taking off. There was a lot of money out there.
What year would you really start? When did you start into the computer science program?
Let's see, that would have been about 1981.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
When we were born.
yeah, I was born in 81.
Yeah. I'm the old guy in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were starting into computer science in 81. Wow.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, computers still, even at that point, were most people wouldn't have even known what the word computer
and
was.
you could
Lucky
get
to be
right
on
out
Oregon
of
Trail.
Yeah, that's right. You can get right out of the college and get a good paying job, which, well, good paying at that time was $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
But right off the bat, and then you could go through and double that within a couple of years, and double that again, and a couple more years after that, and just keep on climbing.
Yeah, and I mean, it had to have been fascinating being in computer science to see the evolution, just even from early 80s to the late 90s of the computer. I still remember my mom getting the first Mac where you didn't have to do the MS-DOS, type in whatever you...
Right.
I vaguely remember in my computer classes, like having to basically write code to get anywhere and on the computer. And her first Mac where you could just take a mouse and just click on an icon and it would open. It was like, what is this?
A game changer.
Yeah, it was crazy. Big old heavy, huge computer. Yeah, it's amazing the difference. It's funny now, people bitch about the cost of buying a cell phone. Like, it's $1,000 to go buy a cell phone or whatever. And it's like, well, in the 90s even, you'd have had the most powerful computer on earth in your pocket, the best camera on earth, the ability to send messages just through the air to anybody you want, and have GPS navigation. All of these things in the 90s of what we have today in our pocket would have been the best of everything.
Today's cell phones, it's 100 times more powerful than what was used to fly the space shuttle.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about the power that's in the current phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, for $1,000, you're really getting pretty good value for what that thing can do. You can run your entire company off of it, personal finances, like everything. Like you say, you don't have to wonder about anything anymore. You can just Google it.
Don't have to buy magazines with
pretty girls in it. Yeah.
Sometimes it's too much information. Sometimes you don't want to know.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah. Well, and now it's turned into so much information that you actually have to question if it's even information at all, or is it even real?
Yeah, it's a matter of let's make this not so visual. Let me leave that somewhere else.
Yeah. No, it's been quite the evolution. I can only imagine the things that you were involved in throughout your career as that evolution changed.
Yeah, and it changed so fast. I mean, if you were not completely learning a new language or new technology every couple of years, you were left behind.
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy it?
Loved it.
Did you?
Couldn't get enough.
Really?
Always loved change and challenge.
What kind of companies did you work through like the late 80s and into the 90s during that real dawn of computers for the rest of us?
Sure.
Because you were doing it, but no one else was.
Sure.
Like the general public.
Mainly medical practice management and medical diagnostic software, modeling things like the way your face would look before you had braces. Okay. And then showing if you move things different ways within your teeth, how the shape of your face would look. Okay. Things like that. Yeah. So anywhere from that orthodontic to medical.
And were you writing these programs?
Yes. Back in the day, using assembly language. That was an old technology.
Really?
Yes. But it's very, very fast. It's was used to write the base of operating systems, things of that sort.
Wow.
And as things became more visual in the development languages, it really became a lot easier to go through. But I'll still write machine interfaces in C language, which is just a very rudimentary language. But boy, you can really make machines work and automate things very well with that language.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I find myself, the more cool people I get to hang around, the dumber and dumber I feel, because it's just amazing when you get around people who are true experts in their fields. And I know next to nothing about any of that computer stuff and the code, and I actually wish I knew even more about electronics and solenoids and the way you guys make all this stuff work. But I just don't have the mind that sees it like a lot of people do. But it's something that I admire, and it's people like you make knife makers like me and so many other people around the country their lives so much better in the shop. You know, the way that press works or the way a grinder works. And I think it's what makes the U.S. I think really, really special. It's what keeps us ahead is, you know, people like you guys involved in all these different facets of industry that just keep advancing things. You know, I was having a really cool conversation with a guy that's one of the very top engineers in AI for Google. And he's, you know, developing the AI stuff for Google right now. And, you know, you talk to him and that whole frontier. I mean, really, today is probably the equivalent of 1995 for computers, but in AI.
Sure.
You know, or 1999. Like, people have it, kind of. They kind of know how to use it. It's also nowhere near where it's going to go. I know a lot of people are scared about it, but then you talk to an engineer like him, and it doesn't seem quite as scary, according to him, as to where it's headed. But it also depends on where it's taken and whose hands it falls into, you know. But
well, you forget what's actually dangerous. So people think, you know, you think AI, and you know, you think, okay, Terminator 2, and you think like this thing that's going to do sentient beings can do physical damage to you. But what's more damaging than you're looking at false images that's changing the minds unknowingly without any other effect, you know? Like, you're looking at, like, I forget what it was, but did you see, like, the video of this kid that was doing this? Like, Mom, that was AI.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and people who are 60, 70 years old are the first ones to not be able to really separate that.
But just like think of like just screen
well,
addiction.
it's people who didn't go into computer science for a living. But no, I mean,
I'm halfway through that age bracket.
Yeah. You're 65.
Close.
Yeah. It's it is really concerning. I mean, it's the same thing with people even just watching the nightly news on the channel. It's like, well, the anchor said this.
Sure.
It's like, that's a skewed view of what they're trying to accomplish, you know, and it's unfortunate because you used to be able, or at least you thought, you could sit down and watch the news and kind of just believe that was the news, or turn on your phone and look at social media and kind of believe what you're seeing. And there's a new app now, I can't remember what it's called, that's all, you know, generating AI.
Chat GPT?
No, this is not it's more of a social media type app, but it's just for generating fake videos. It's brand new. Bert Kreischer was just telling me about it when he was here the other day. And once he told me about it, I've started seeing some of these videos because it says made by.
Well, it's kind of like seeing like the Tupac and Mr. Rogers, or seeing
right. It's stuff like that where you really got to start to look at it.
Oh yeah. And,
you know, we can all kind of spot it.
Well, only because the people are dead. I'm looking at Bob Ross and Tupac and Mr. Rogers, and I'm pretty sure
they're all dead.
You know.
But even current people today, I mean, they could have all of us doing something.
Oh yeah.
And they're only a couple years away from you not being able to tell the difference.
Right. Oh yeah.
Like I don't care who you are, like you just don't know, and that's a scary place. The other thing that I find scary a bit, but I don't know if it's me just being just gray-haired old curmudgeon, but I think it's a little bit of the issue also with the internet is that the fact that you don't have to wonder or figure things out. Like, it feels like in certain ways we have to use our brains and reasoning and whatnot a lot less than we used to. You used to have to really learn things or go solve a problem. Now, that being said, you have such a powerful tool. We also get a lot more, like, look at the company I'm able to build in 4 or 5 years, and that's largely due to the internet. Whether it was me researching, I didn't know how to build production knives, right? So researching different things, using the internet to find talent. You know, I mean, back in the old days, you put a job posting in the Missoulian for a electrical engineer.
That's right.
Good luck, right? But you put it out on the internet and you send an email out to 1 million followers, you can find some talent. You know, so the internet is like this weird combination, and I think AI is going to be similar. Weird combination of incredibly amazing, beneficial, powerful tool, and used wrong also
dangerous.
You know, or counteractive to a quality outcome. But what's your feeling with your computer science background and so heavily involved in computers, the internet, everything of the advancements of the last 30 years? What do you think the next 30 years looks like if you were, 22-year-old Eric in, computer science class?
Well, I could tell you that technology goes through and just exponentially grows faster and faster and faster as time goes. And to try and imagine 30 years from now is pretty incredible, because
even 5 years from now,
you can't even imagine what's going to be here in 30 years. But
like biological computers.
Oh yes, but just even 5 years from now,
right?
It's going to be a whole different landscape than what we see today in technology.
Does it worry you?
I wouldn't say it worries me, but I would say that you definitely have to keep an eye out for what's going on and be able to adjust to deal with it, because it's not going to change. It's not going to stop. You can't control it, and you can't spend your life worrying about things like that. You just have to be aware.
I've told my kids, you have to accept it, embrace it, and learn how to use it. Because if you're that guy in 1999 that says, screw computers, I'm not going to, and you stuck your head in the sand for the last 30 years, you can probably find yourself behind. I don't care what business you're in. If you're not harnessing the true power of, computers, social media, internet, whatever, all the way through the manufacturing process of what we're doing downstairs, those advancements in technology. And so it feels like that, like you say, like you can think it's not necessarily the best thing for society or not, but you better figure out how you're going to live in it and benefit from it.
Exactly. Just be aware of how it's being used, just like having situational awareness of your surroundings. Same with technology.
Yeah, and I think maybe the generation, like my kids' generation right now, is maybe going to be the best prepared for that compared to someone who is, say, 60, 70 years old right now that pretty much went through their entire childhood and even early adulthood without any computers, essentially. And then all of this magical stuff kind of came along in the next 20 years. Like this last 20 years has been insane, 25, since the year 2000, really. These kids, it's interesting, like they've grown up with social media, with not necessarily believing everything that they see, not being dazzled by every little thing necessarily. I think a lot of these kids' minds are a little more prepared for some of the changes that are yet to come. And a lot of people complain about young kids today and work ethic and this and that and whatever, but I actually think the young kids we have working for us are brilliant. I got young kids in our engineering department and manufacturing and, all throughout our company that are phenomenal, So I don't necessarily worry about the next generation of kids for the most part.
They will adapt just like we adapted to how things were when we were growing up.
Yeah.
People will adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Well, cool. Well, fun conversation. Probably two of the smartest people I've sat and talked to. So, I'm glad you guys are friends, and I'm glad your guys' expertise helps make our life a little bit easier around here. If people come on tours of our new facility and they see these blue belt grinders sitting there, throwing a few sparks here and there, those are the brainchilds of Travis here. So it's pretty cool. And I hope this mini grinder, I hope that you take it and run with it and do really put those into production, because I think it's kind of the next big thing. I think this might be similar to when you launched the TW-90, where big, large belt grinders sitting on benches in 20, 25 years might actually, especially with all this new technology and motors and whatever, might be a little bit of a thing of the past where people have these super powerful little grinders that,
well, it's pretty, that little motor, mean, it's kind of like Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go like, yeah, Formula One, you could have this little bitty motor that's making 500 horsepower, but like, how long will it last?
Mm-hmm.
And so like that little motor, yeah, I could put the amperage to it and make it make 5 horsepower or more.
Mm-hmm.
But how long will it last? So it's right now it's dialed into a pretty sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think for most people, it's all they're ever going to need.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And those technologies are ever changing too. So motors are getting smaller and more powerful and more efficient and all of it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here with.
Well, less raw materials too.
Yeah.
Smaller means less.
Yeah. Well, and shipping is a huge problem. I mean, shipping has become very expensive. And so if you can build something similar to what the bigger product was, but unless you're in a real heavy industrial environment, you need that big heavy grinder. A lot of the people that are buying these don't quite need that.
Oh yeah.
Just the cost in shipping can be prohibitive for people to, it's like, well, I got a few grand to buy that grinder, but then it's another $800 to ship it or whatever. And like, I'll wait, And I think the shipping of it could be something that really helps sell a bunch of these things. So it's going to be interesting.
Shop space.
Shop space is another big one. Square footage. I know in our building, you saw our plan, like the way we built everything out on CAD and whatnot. When you build a new building, the cost per square foot to build, you want to use that space wisely. And I even see us down the road, depending on how these things work over time, getting lots of hours on them. If we get to a point where we need 6 more grinders worth of equipment in there, it might be like, hey, Travis, build me 6 of them small ones instead of 6 of them big ones. Because it might buy me 1 more grinder in the same space right on the end, which that's
a lot of knives being
sharpened. Yeah. So, yeah. But, what's your website for people that do want to go see it?
It's just TravisWuertz.com.
Spell Wuertz. And people can see it in the description.
Yeah, Wuertz, WUERTZ, or an acronym that's been adopted as without underwear, everything rubs the zipper. WUERTZ.
And how'd you come up with that acronym?
I was sitting in class without any underwear, and this professor had an acronym for his name, Dimitri Kasisioglu. And he had an acronym for that. So WUERTZ was a lot easier to figure out without underwear. Everything rubs the zipper.
Okay. Do you have an acronym for Fleming?
No. You just have to say it.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. And what's your website for people that want to read about forges and controls and all that?
It's FlemingKnives.com.
Okay.
Fleming with 1 M.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I sure appreciate it.
That's fun, Josh.
That was great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yep.